So hello everyone, it's the Cricket Connoisseur here and welcome to episode 6 of the TCC Talks podcast. Today I'm joined by someone who will be very familiar to any fans of Scottish cricket out there. It is the 2018 ICC Associate Player of the Year, Calum MacLeod. So first things first, Calum, it's an absolute privilege to have you on the podcast today. How's your day been so far, mate?
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here. I had a quiet morning. Went for a run, did some exercise. Just had some breakfast and now settled down to have a chat with you.
Yeah, good choice. It's a great podcast. Right, so first things first, Calum. What is your first ever memory of cricket, either playing or watching the game?
Watching the game, I would be down at the local club Trampelia that I grew up. My dad was a social member there, and we went along. Me and my brothers all the time. We'd just be out there playing, and it's like it's a social place for cricket for kids to be. There's obviously a big field for them to run about on, and we'd be down there from a young age. The first game I was involved in, I wasn't meant to be. I was asleep. I was in bed in my pajamas, and my mum woke me up because my brother's team was a man short and got me to go along. And I probably stood at fine leg for the whole game, but loved it. And from there, I was hooked, and I just wanted to play as much as I could.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're from Glasgow, a city that's not so much known for cricket. It's more well known for football and rugby, isn't it? What made you choose cricket over the likes of those two more traditional Scottish sports?
I suppose just passion. I suppose as a kid, you don't know that you're hooked to a sport. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I can't really remember, but I just knew that that's what I wanted to play. I played a lot of football at school, rugby for a club, played a lot of hockey. Took it quite seriously as well, but it was always cricket. It was always cricket that was at the forefront of my mind, that I wanted to go back and I wanted to do more and I wanted to play. And in the back garden, we'd be playing cricket up and down the path. That'd be the sport that we'd be playing. So I think from a young age, I just enjoy it.
Well, yeah, that's the most important thing with any sport, isn't it, really? When you're young in particular, get the fire burning inside. So back then, Calum, you're actually a fast bowler. Who are your cricketing inspirations? Who did you really look up to in the international game in terms of fast bowlers?
Definitely growing up as a fast bowler, as a competitive fast bowler, I looked up to Glenn McGrath and Darren Gough. Brilliant examples of fast bowling. And competitive, I wanted to be the guy who ran in, bowled fast, and wanted the new ball or the ball at the end, just like they did. Obviously, McGrath was brilliant in Test match cricket and one-day cricket, relentless. And then Darren Gough, to me, had a bit of an X factor, and enjoyed watching him at the back end of one-day games, bowling his brilliant in-swinging Yorkers, and they'd be the two that I'd be running up and down the path, pretending that's who I was. And then more locally at my club, Trampelia, a brilliant man called Mohammed Ramzan. He was a club professional there, and he had a huge influence on my early career. And laterally, when I meet up and see him now, it's nice to chat about batting and not trying to bowl.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about the transition from bowler to batsman in a bit. But so from these humble beginnings, you worked your way up through Scotland's ranks. You played in the Under-19 Cricket World Cup in Sri Lanka in 2006. And then in 2008, you finally made your debut for Scotland. And that was against England, wasn't it? The likes of Flintoff, a great team back then. How did that feel to finally make your debut for Scotland?
Yeah, that was my ODI debut. I played a rain-affected game, I think the year before against the UAE, but I think we maybe got 30 overs out of 4 days in. Typical Scottish game. But the England game was brilliant. These guys you see on TV, and I can't remember what age. You might have said what age I was there. Batting 11, I remember I had one of those old Albion helmets, the plastic ones. They had the inserts in it, and I picked the helmet up to go out and bat. And bear in mind, I was nervous, batting 11, not very good at batting at that point. The insides fell out. But I was too nervous to say anything, so I just quickly shoved them back in, put the helmet in, and it was only when Flintoff was running in to bowl his first ball at me, I realised my helmet was broken, and probably wasn't the best idea. But I managed to scrape a couple away, and And it's games like that I remember. Another rain-affected game. They're not all rain-affected in Scotland, but just even that taste of it. It was a shame that we didn't get to go and have a bowl at them. But I think a couple of guys got 50s, and I remember watching them thinking it was brilliant. I think Gavin Hamilton might have got a 50. And again, it's just the sort of thing, you see these guys up close and you see how good they are. And well, it certainly inspired me and pushed me to try and get to that sort of level.
Yeah, great inspirations. Definitely 100%. It was a great team back then. So roughly around the same time as your Scotland debut, you were playing for my county, Warwickshire, playing in the Birmingham Premier League for Moseley, I believe.
Yeah.
How did you find your time at Warwickshire?
Absolutely mixed emotions there, because obviously I went through some hard times, but what a brilliant place for a young cricketer to be. I mean, the cricketers and the coaching staff and the people I was able to mix with. I think certainly as a young player, you look at other people's work ethics, you look at the way people go about things, and I mean, I love talking cricket. I'd sitting here talk all day to you, and I'd ask questions. I'd probably annoy a few people asking too many questions, and just want to pick people's brains and just seeing people how they train. I mean, Ian Bell, I always remember a training session where he came in before a second 11 training session, did a session, trained with the second team, then trained with the first team, and then had a session after. I mean, if that's the work rate that he has to go through, and he's Ian Bell,
yeah,
then it shows how far and how much work an 18, 19, 20-year-old's not even made his debut yet, is how much work we're going to have to do. And there's little things like that I think subconsciously, looking back, I can see that I picked them up. I picked up some of the habits, or tried to pick up some of the habits, but it's things like that I think being in that sort of environment just helps. And then working day to day with guys like Ashley Giles, Alan Donald as your coaches. I mean, sit and chat with them all day, don't you? And especially as a young guy who loved cricket, I mean, brilliant place to be. I just wish I'd been able to force my way in and maybe play a few more games for them, or find a way of staying on the staff, but it wasn't to be. And to be honest, it was when I left there, it was probably exactly what I needed, because I wasn't a batter, I wasn't a bowler, and I had to go away and put some hard work in with Scotland to try and figure out how I was going to stay in the great game.
Well, yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, some great players in there. Jonathan Trott was in there as well. We had Darren Maddy, big Darren Maddy. Ian Westwood. Yeah, great brilliant. Warwickshire team that. But yeah, as you mentioned, you had to transition from being a bowler to a batsman. That was because of your action. Now, what did the ICC actually pick on in regards to your action? Because you got reported for it, didn't you?
Yeah. So in my quest to be the fastest bowler I could be, I picked up some bad habits. I tried to remodel my action kind of semi on my own. It was in a period where a bowling coach left, and there was a break between getting another one, and we'd started doing some action work, and I just went on it myself and just tried to do it myself, and obviously got into some bad habits that I can never really rectify. And essentially what had happened is I started to throw the ball, for putting it as bluntly as possible, and they picked up on the angle of release, and I had to go down to Loughborough to be tested and go through all that myself. But I also think it's not a blessing, but it was a bit of not a good thing, because nobody wants to go through that, but it meant I think I spent 4 months travelling with the Warwickshire first team as a 12th man, doing my remedial work every morning and every lunchtime. And we did get back to a stage where I could bowl, but I think sitting, watching and talking cricket for 3 months, well before I was ready for that time, probably helped me more for my batting and more for some of the mindsets that people go through, and little snippets of questions that you can ask people. and understanding how cricket works day to day. And I look back at that 4 months where I didn't play a single game of cricket as one of my favourite times in cricket because of what I was actually doing. I was travelling. I was sometimes car sharing with Alan Donald or Ashley Giles, like I said, and these guys are certainly Alan Donald and like great at the game and a fast bowler who I looked up to as a kid, and then there you are as a 20, 21-year-old just travelling everywhere and listening to every word he's got to say. It's a brilliant time for me to see what cricket's about. Ultimately, I did get back to being able to bowl with a straight arm, and I bowled a bit more for Scotland but it was never going to be quick enough or consistent enough to have a first class career with it. Just little gentle medium pacers, but it was nice to actually get back to the stage where it was passed again, and it felt like a bit of achievement. I was proud that I was able to go back and bowl, but by the time that had all happened, I'd probably played 10 or 15 games for Scotland as a batter. Didn't bowl a ball, and that was strange. The early part of that, in that I'd never done that before. So once I started bowling again, it was okay.
Well, yeah, let's just talk about the batting, because let's just say it probably was a good career move to become a powerful, top-hitting batsman. I mean, you've played some magnificent knocks over the years. You had a 175 against Canada in 2014, which allowed Scotland to qualify for the 2015 World Cup. You had, honestly, one of the best associate knocks that I've seen as well, the 157 out against Afghanistan. And then the most famous one, arguably, and the one that most Scottish cricket fans will love the most, is the 140 against England. Which of those innings along the years has been your favourite?
Somebody asked me this the other day. It's such a tough question. I think, and I can only go on what the guys watching say, because when you're batting, you're doing your thing, and I'm in my own little world. Guys watching and the guys in the team reckon the Afghanistan 156 was a better innings because it was on a turning wicket against Rashid, Nabi and Mujib. Yeah. I mean, and I stuck to a game plan throughout it, and I knew personally I'd prepared really well for that. I'd spent a lot of time practicing my sweep and watching their bowlers, trying to get any sort of information of what's going to come out of their hand. But the 140 against England, it's on Sky, it's at the Grange, it's in front of family and friends, and led to what's probably one of the best games of cricket that Scotland have been involved in. I mean, it was a brilliant game of cricket. Let's not forget that. It went right down to the wire. To be involved in that and to set that up and play a small part in that, I think that will be one that I'll probably look back at in the future and probably have a smile to myself at some stage.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, I think in a few years' time I think that'll be a historic moment for Scotland. I mean, as you said, it was a brilliant game, like right to the death, wasn't it, really? And then all ended with a typical Safian Sharif peach to Mark Wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you said you played a small part, that's not a small part, 140 not out. It's an incredible innings.
Yeah, true. Yeah, maybe. But there was so many good things in that day. It's hard not to mention Mark Watt bowling in that day. I think he bowled 10 overs, 3 for. If I get this wrong, he'll be straight on to me. I think it was 51. I will say 51. It might have been 55, but to go around 5 and over for a left arm spinner on a flat wicket and small boundaries against some top batters, that was pretty special in its own probably. I know 140 gets the highlights in the headlines, but in its own way, being able to do that and get the first wicket where he got the breakthrough of Roy, I think that probably played just as much of a part, to be honest. And then all the others. I mean, the way Kyle and Crossy started the innings, 100-run partnership in any game of cricket, sets it up. And I'm not saying it makes it easier, but it's certainly a lot nicer coming in at 100 for none than none for one.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in that same year as well, 2018, I mentioned it right at the start, you won Associate Player of the Year. That's a massive achievement. How did that feel?
Yeah, that's one I'm pretty proud of, actually. Not a huge one for personal accolades and all that. I think you don't win many games if people don't contribute. But being able to do it for a year and having quite a good year on the back of a couple of years where it's been, well, 2017 in the back end of 2016 was decent, but leading up and working away, the only way it would have been better is if we managed to qualify for the World Cup, which we probably should have done. But yeah. I think it was a nice award to be recognised outside of the test nations that they voted me as the player of the year, and it was nice. It was we had an awards night at the start of the year and passed it on to Kyle, and we hope to keep it in the Scottish ranks for a bit longer. And that was a nice moment, and he deserved it. So that was quite a good night.
Well, yeah, I mean, Scottish cricket at the moment it's going leaps and bounds, really, I'd say, since about 2010. As you mentioned, you got yourself, Kurtzer, George Munsey's a wonderful batsman as well. I mean, yeah, it's looking quite good for Scotland at the moment. So this kind of brings me on to my next point, actually, Calum. What would you like to achieve in the remainder of your career?
That's a good question. I've got a couple of personal goals that I want to finish with. I keep them a little bit closer to myself. But as a team, we're on the path, and as an organisation, we want to try and be the next full member. We want to do well enough. Hopefully, the World Cup goes ahead at the end of the year if that's possible. We want to go there. We want to go and win some games of cricket. We know that beating England was a massive achievement, but we know it was also a statement of, okay, well, what we're going to do next? We've got to keep winning games of cricket. We've got to go to World Cups. We've got to follow the path of Ireland and Afghanistan and go and make a mark at global events. So that would be nice if we could achieve that. I want to win some more associate tournaments as well as being the next full member. I think it's important for us to. I mean, the standard of associate cricket now, to me, is as good as I remember it. Obviously, there was a period where Afghanistan and Ireland probably just pushed themselves ahead of the rest, but I think the pack, everyone else, you only have to look at the World Cricket League too and the teams that missed out of it to see the standard of cricket is expanding all over the world. So it'd be nice. I tell you what, it would be nice to play in a World Cup that wasn't a 10-team World Cup. That'd be a highlight. But I want to go. Yeah, I want to win associate tournament because that will bring a lot of pleasure, and it will also be a well fought competition. The way that it's really well structured now, World Cricket League too. So I want to try and go and win that.
Yeah, we'll talk about the World Cup in a bit. Oh yeah, that was very, very controversial, especially for associate nations. But talking of associate cricket, as you mentioned, there are some wonderful teams at the moment. You've got Netherlands who are very strong, Papua New Guinea, Namibia, America are becoming a real dark horse now as well. Who's your favourite team to play against in associate cricket?
I always get quite a bit of satisfaction from beating the Dutch. They're a brilliant side, and they're probably one of our closest associates in geographical, and we play against them quite a lot. And their cricket's come on leaps and bounds. They're a fantastic side. So they're always hard games. Get a lot of pleasure if we manage to come up on the right side of beating them. Some brilliant. We went on a tour. Can't remember what year. It would have been 2011 or 2012 to Namibia. One of the best cricket tours I've ever been on. Sadly, due to this pandemic, we were meant to go down there maybe a month ago, and we've missed out on that. And I hope when this is all over, we get the chance to go back down there and enjoy their hospitality. But to be honest, I enjoy playing and beating the ball. To be honest, it's just nice to get out there and try and win.
Yeah, good attitude. Now, in terms of, in fact, no, we'll expand this because you have played full nation bowlers as well. In your career as a batsman, who's been the toughest bowler you've faced?
I always say James Anderson because he always gets me out. But I've never lasted long enough to really know just how good he is, which is probably says it. I think he's a terrific bowler, and especially with the red. I've not faced him with the red ball, but he's one that him and Dale Steyn, every time they've got the ball in their hand, they're the two people that I sit down and watch. And I mean, there's bowlers who are coming up. Pat Cummins played against him and Mitchell Starc in Australia in 2015, and they were pretty special, to be honest. So I'd probably just put Anderson at the top of that, just because he's got me out every time we've played him.
So, would you say Anderson over Steyn then?
I've not played against Steyn as a batsman, so certainly not in England with a Duke.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, Anderson's an absolute beast at home, especially in swinging conditions. So, just to wrap up this podcast, I think, Calum, we will talk about the future of Scottish cricket. Okay, so as you mentioned, the World Cup is now a 10-team affair. It's almost like a Champions Trophy in that way. What do you think has to be done by A, the ICC, and B, Cricket Scotland to allow Scottish cricket to become a full member of the ICC?
Well, on the 10-team World Cup, it's a little bit disappointing because you can't say the ICC haven't done a good job, because I've sat here and said that associate cricket's probably as good as it's ever been, and just in my opinion. So they've obviously put in a lot of time and effort and money into making associate cricket pretty good. To then cut that off and have the teams in a place where they probably compete more than they have in previous World Cups, and probably look to win more games than they have in World Cups before, it doesn't quite weigh up. So it'd be nice to have that opportunity to play full members a bit more, because with that exposure, it just lifts the standard that we have to play at, and the higher standard we play at, then it filters all the way down. In terms of the organisation, I think they're going about it pretty well. They're trying to organise us as much cricket as possible. They've got, I think, nearly all the players are on full-time professional contracts now. Obviously, that can be expanded to a bigger squad, where more people are challenging for it. And things like the domestic game, the regional competition, the women's game in Scotland's taken a massive leaps and bounds in recent times, and these are all important things, because it's raising the awareness of cricket in Scotland, not just relying on the fact that we've had a few good performances, beating Sri Lanka. We did beat Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe, England. Can't just rely on those. We've got to build it from inside, from the regional game, from the women's game, from the men's game, and just make sure it's secure from the grassroots all the way up to the seniors, the senior team. And I think they're doing quite a good job of that. And then it's up to us, the guys who are playing at the moment, to win enough games that we leave it in a better place than we found it. And I think under Kyle's leadership at the moment, I think the senior team are going about that quite well.
Yeah, 100%. Carl's a great captain, 100%. I mean, I was mentioning before, great team as well. Has come on leaps and bounds, especially since 2015. Actually, I completely forgot about that in the 2015 World Cup.
Yeah.
Scottish cricket is coming on leaps and bounds.
Yeah, just talking about Kyle there in the 2015 World Cup, I think that was a real eye opener for us. He's 156 against Bangladesh. It's still.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's obviously I've had a couple of nice innings myself, but the ones that I've watched, that was absolutely mind blowing. In it, I remember sitting there thinking, well, that's that's the standard. A little bit like when I was a younger cricketer, looking at some of the guys and being in awe of them, thinking, okay, that's the level we have to get to. Watching Kyle play that innings, put 320 in the board, and we still lost. I went away from it going, well, we've got a lot of work to do. Because if that's what he can do, then we've got to raise our game and try and get as close to as good as he is, and we'll still always be chasing him in terms of Scotland records. But that was definitely an eye-opening moment certainly for me. Of okay, that's if he can do it, then we've got to aspire to play in that way as well.
Well, yeah, definitely great role models as well for any Scottish cricketer. Really, Carl Coetzee. Do you think you can overtake him at some point?
No.
No,
the guy's too good.
Right, just to wrap this all
up. There's a couple. Oh no, sorry.
No, go on, Calum. Go ahead.
I'm not sure what I was going to say. I think there's a couple coming through who, if they play long enough, there's a couple of really talented young batters coming through, and that's exciting. And I hope at some stage, if they get into the team, that we can sit down and we can chat about batting. Young Michael Jones has played 3 or 4 ODIs, maybe a few more. He's got 3 or 4 50s already. He could be a really exciting prospect for us. He's on the books at Durham as well, so he's certainly one to keep your eye out on. I think he could be a terrific player for us and for Durham in the future.
It's funny you just mentioned that. That was going to be my final question, actually. In terms of young Scottish talent, who do you think is going to be, I don't know, the next Carl Coetzee, for example? You've just mentioned Michael Jones.
Michael Jones. I think he's probably already a stalwart of the team. MacLeod is still only be really young. He's got another 10, 15 years ahead of him if he wants it. I think it's somebody he'll be one that he's so competitive that he'll help drive the team forward. Hamza Tir, the other left-arm spinner, who's just come in.
Great player.
Yeah, the two of them working together and seeing them work in training is brilliant. They bounce off each other. I tell you what, it's a competitive hard net when you go into their net. You come out from the seamers, and all our seamers are, we've got a really good seam battery, and you come out with their net sweating, you go into the 2 spinners thinking you'll be able to play a few nice shots, and these two will be on you if you're not trying to train hard or you're not training well, and they think you're letting your standards slip. Certainly to me they are. They'll really pick up on it and challenge you, and I think that sort of competitiveness and training will drive the team forward. So I think they'll be 2 important players. Below that there's lots of good cricketers, but there's so much work to be done to being able to have a career. And I hope they're in a position now where they can manage that with Scotland. So it's up to them whether they want to grab that, see what's in front of them, and hopefully run with it in the way that I was lucky enough to do.
Well, yeah, actually, this will be my final question, I think. What advice would you give to those young players then? Because obviously you've been through some hardships as well in your career. You've come out on the correct side of it. What advice would you give to them, say to someone who's just starting their cricket career?
I think enjoy it. I know that's such a cliche and everybody says it, but it is so important that you enjoy your own success and the team's success and other people's success. Work hard. Work hard, but don't be expected to be patted in the back for working hard. Working hard is just it's not an attribute, it's not a skill, it's just an expectation. That's something somebody once said to me when I was younger. And that sort of mentality to get in and just to do it, and don't be afraid to fail. Cricket's such a strange game that even the world's best have days where it just doesn't work, and it's much easier mindset to have when you're a slightly older player, and know that the chances you performing, you've got a weight of performance behind you a little bit, so it can be a little bit easier on the mindset. But trying to stay level enough that when you have your best performance, you don't go skyrocketing. When you have a little low run, then it's not the end of the world, because it just means you're closer to your next good score. To be honest, that's the way I look at it. And I think in cricket that will take you a long way.
Yeah, that's great advice for any young cricketers out there. Please do take that on board. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all we've got time for today, Calum, but you've been an absolutely fantastic guest, really insightful, great knowledge of the Scottish game. But yeah, that's pretty much it from us today, guys. For anyone who has listened to the podcast, thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, guys, enjoy the rest of your day.